going on, everybody? Welcome into the Highlight, a business podcast for business people. And today I'm excited to share the spotlight with a new friend of mine, another local Nashville area guy, Teddy Cheek, the marketing director for The Escape Game. Now, Teddy, did I get the title right? I was more worried about the name of the actual company itself because we got a real cross-branding problem here that I'm trying to avoid. What is your official title over there at The Escape Game?
Yeah, exactly. So my name is Teddy. You got that right, Teddy Cheek. It doesn't sound real. I know people think I'm prank calling them when I order a pizza, but and The Escape Game, not a room, The Escape Game.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear all about what you're doing to differentiate yourself in that market because it's a cool market. It sounds like it's a growing market and it's a competitive market. But I'd love for you to take just a couple minutes here and sort of intro yourself and what's your journey been through marketing to get to where you're at now.
Yeah, sure thing. So I was never supposed to be in marketing, Chandler, because my pop rock band was supposed to make it big after college. And so after a few years of waiting tables and waiting for that record deal, it did not come, unfortunately. And so I was left trying to find something like what's going to be a really fun creative job. And, if you've seen the show Full House, I'm sure you have, Chandler.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You're like, where's this going? He's going off the rails. I'm not going.
I can't wait for you to land the plane here. This is going to be good.
Okay. So Uncle Jesse and Uncle Joey, they start this marketing agency later in the show, and it's all about writing taglines and jingles. And I was like, man, if that's marketing, sign me up. That's what I want to do. I want to be pitching all the time, jingles and taglines and all this. So that started the marketing journey. And no, that's not what, I mean, some days it feels like that, but usually it's not that. That's what started it. And so I got my first marketing job and I hopped around a little. I was a bit of a Goldilocks, like this job was to this job was to this, which I don't recommend that strategy at all. But I landed at an agency in town called CrowdSurf. They're a digital marketing agency that works mainly with artists, entertainers, celebrities, that sort of thing. And probably wasn't qualified, but I hit that interview with a lot of passion. And I got the job and became an account manager. So I was given a roster of clients. I dedicated my life, my nights, my weekends, whatever, to being good at this job. Because I didn't have all the skills. And so what happened is I kept all my clients, which, you have an agency background, you have a project manager keeping their clients, you're like, what's going on? And so I did get promoted to lead the Nashville team because the co-founders were going to LA to work on a new office in that area. So that was an amazing run, and I loved my time there. It's a great agency, worked with some clients and on some album releases I love and I'm really proud of. But after a handful of years, I was there a few years, I was looking for, hey, what's next? And I considered a few things, whether it be an agency or a brand. And I saw this thing in town in Nashville called The Escape Game. And it was kind of this like word of mouth, like grassroots thing was like really swung. Like, this is really cool. Everybody's talking about this. They started in Nashville. They opened a second location. Then they opened in Orlando and they opened in Austin, Texas. And so I wanted to hear more. So I reached out and ended up getting coffee with one of the co-founders. And it was the middle of summer. We sat down. I sat down with Johnny and, somewhere that had a server, a waiter, and he came up and the co-founder was like, I'll take some hot cocoa. And I thought that was such a boss move. That's beside the point. But it was instant. Like,
wait, what time of year was this?
It was like July. And he ordered hot cocoa.
Christmas in July.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is wild. Yeah, he wanted the marshmallows and everything. So I was like, I like this guy. This is fun. We hit it off. And so they were just beginning to think about a corporate office, and thinking about building out a marketing function in the future. So it was great timing. So came on with The Escape Game. That was close to 7 years ago. We had 5 locations, and man, it's been an adventure building up this corporate office and getting to build a team. I love our marketing team. They're fantastic. There are 8 of us, just hired a 9th. We have 35 locations, 5 more coming this year, so we'll end the year with 40. And we can talk about this later, but we launched a brand new concept in Opry Mills Mall that is not the escape game. It's a live immersive game show called Great Big Game Show. So we're
Okay,
branching
cool.
out even from escape games. And so just love this company and being here and excited to talk about it.
All right, so it's got to be important for a guy like you that's got this creative background, former artist, doing your own band thing, to now land here versus you were in a traditional agency model, and even that had to be a good creative script scratch inside for you, anyways, just because you're like working with other artists and launching their albums and doing all the things, right? So, what is it like? Like, how important is it to have creative flexibility? Do you think for a marketing team to thrive?
Yeah, so the first part of that, I think on a personal level, it's essential. People are looking for different things in their career, and none of these are bad. It's kind of like the love languages of career. There's
That's
money,
your
and
book.
there's remote work, and flexibility, and there's, the five love languages. You
I
know what I'm
love
saying?
that.
Uh, but for me, it's creative fulfillment, feeling like I'm tinkering and making something that I'm really proud of. Um, and also growing something. I love the game Roller Coaster Tycoon growing up,
Mm-hmm.
building a theme park. So
Mm-hmm.
that was important for a team. I think room to be creative is really really important for sanity of team members and feeling heard and a part of the team. So we're lucky here that just kind of comes with the territory, because you have a few kinds of companies. And again, none of these are bad, but you have a huge enterprise company that is trying to maintain or grow slowly, and you're kind of this small piece. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have not like your agency, but there's some agencies that are just in survival mode, and they just can't lose another client, and so you're on pins and needles, and so that kind of squelches creativity too. And here we get to be in this exciting, like, it's working and growth mode. Um, where everybody's pushing really hard, but there is a lot of room for creativity and collaboration. And I put a high emphasis on maybe not the traditional meaning of creativity, like I'm an idea guy, but even more like I'm a problem solver. I find creative ways to solve that problem or accomplish
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yeah. No, I think it's cool too that you guys have a leadership team there that is really committed to fostering this sort of environment, and something we talked about and I saw on your LinkedIn the other day was the COVID survival story. And I don't love to make everything about COVID, and I think we can sort of live in this post-war time in this weird area where we're at now, kind of after it. But I mean, it was a thing, and it was really tough, and it affected so many businesses out there. And I love the story of what your leadership team did as soon as all that stuff kicked off. Because I mean, locking people in a room, probably not great when you have a pandemic going on. So can you tell that story real quick, and then I want to dive into the marketing
Exactly.
stuff. But I love this story so much we have to tell it.
Yeah, let's do it. So, it was late February, I think, 2020. We started getting a few cancellations of future bookings, and then the next week, many more cancellations, and then just the bottom dropped out. Is this unknown virus no one knew that much about was happening, but um, as little as people knew, like the last thing people wanted to do was be locked in a room with people they didn't know. And so we were like, this could be bad. And it wasn't long after that we had to close. At the time, we had 18 stores. We closed them all down. It was sad. We had to furlough most of the company. Um, and our C team, they were fantastic. So our three co-founders, they cut their pay to basically nothing. They started this employee relief fund, and then a few of us stayed on in kind of this here at HQ. And so I remember the first meeting. We go in and our CEO's there, and he's not like a hype man. If I could describe, like, you're seeing me and you're like, oh, this company's all this like hype, excitement, energy, and like we have a good balance. Our CEO Mark is good to great. If you've read that book, he's more
Yeah.
type B, really methodical, decisive, um, humble, very humble. And he was in the meeting. He said, "Hey, someone's going to have a big idea. An idea so big that we're not only going to survive, we're going to thrive. It's going to be a total home run. The end of this year is going to be a celebration. We're going to bring our team back to work." Um, and so we're looking around, we're feeling inspired because it's Mark. And this is like for him to say this, like, we're bought in. This is really
Mhm.
exciting. Um, and so the first thing we did is we turned our factory where we make escape games into a face shield factory. And so one day, this crew here, we got to bring them back into work, some of them. This crew's making like trees and missiles and all these things we put in escape games. And the next day, they're making face shields. And we have some massive orders going out. So it helped us keep the lights on. And then while that's happening, a few of us were working on this idea for like a Zoom virtual escape game, which sounded like a bad idea, and the first prototype was not good. I was like, this is not fun. And what it was is we put someone in a room with a camera on their head streaming live on Zoom, and people, told them what to do. Like, look left, look right. Hey, what's that over there? And you're basically leading an avatar through an escape game. And so after the prototype, we added like a dashboard component on the computer where anything you find shows up there, and you see the locks. And you can explore the room independently. We put like 360 photos in there. And it was just the right product at the right time. Once we honed it in, it exploded. I mean, took off. And our addressable audience was the world. We were doing team building for people in Australia and India and the UK and all across the US. And so it was just a really exciting time. And we didn't just survive. We thrived. And then we brought our postures action as a team. And so as soon as we could open, like as soon as the city, the landlord, and the state said this store can open, we were open full staff because we had staff in place from running these virtual games. Because, okay, we'd have like a group of 500 playing all at once, and they didn't know. They jump on one Zoom and then split up. And they're streaming from Jacksonville, Florida, and Las Vegas, Nevada, and all over the country. So we have the staff working. So when it was time to open, we had such a head start because everybody else was trying to staff up. And we were like, all right, let's go. We're running our full schedule, morning to night, 7 days a week. And it was just incredible to be a part and see how our C team led us through that, because it was about culture. Yeah. You can't make up culture in the moment of crisis. It was already there. Like James is our COO. He really has helped shape and defend our culture, and he ensured clarity and communication and care throughout. Mark, the CEO I mentioned, just decisive and made every right decision. And then Johnny, the hot cocoa with marshmallows, our co-founder and CMO, he was just our chief innovator. He was so comfortable. He's like, we're making face shields today, and we're making virtual escape rooms tomorrow. And it was amazing being a part of it and having a front row seat to that.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty good. I mean, you got two different founders there with two absolutely legendary stories, hot cocoa and then like calm, measured, inspiring vision casting. I need to know the story of the third guy at some point. Like he's got to have his own unique thing.
They're all so different. I feel like it's a masterclass seeing like different kinds of leadership that all work together.
Yeah. Well, leadership, I mean, companies rise and fall on leadership. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I used to own a barbecue restaurant. It was a great pulled pork sandwich, don't get me wrong, but you could get pulled pork sandwiches anywhere, and it's at some point, like there's a very small marginal difference between product good and bad. And unless you're like an expert in the field, like how do you really know the difference, right? But what you do feel the difference is if it is a team that is led well and is supported and given creative freedom, but also structure and all the things. And so now you're leading you said a marketing team of 9 at this point, and you guys are marketing for 35 locations across the country, and now you have this virtual product. So what is that like? How do you build a really great marketing team in today's world? Is it virtual? Is it in person? Is it both? Is it are you looking for people with certain experience? Are you hiring traits over skills? Like, what is your philosophy as a marketing leader yourself?
Great question. We're in person. I don't know if it's possible to have the same level of relationship and collaboration remote. Maybe, and that puts a lot of pressure on the leader. Maybe it is totally possible. But we were remote for COVID for a year and a half, and I think it worked great for us because we had these relationships built already. I think it's really hard to onboard and build the rapport remote. And while, when I'm hiring, hard skills really, really do matter to a degree, but I'd rather get someone before their curve, right before it happens. We're like, this is a high potential person. They have passion. They're humble. They're hungry. They're here to learn. So you tell they have the talent, but they've got the traits. They're a cultural fit. And by cultural fit, I mean like specific to our company. not just, hey, this is someone that I could have coffee with and I enjoy. That's important too, but do they align with the company's mission and values? Does that feel like a fit for them as well? So I'm looking for that culture fit. And I'm notorious for doing just tons and tons of interviews. And I see these posts from recruiters on LinkedIn, and I'm like, sorry, because some of them are like, oh, you should make an offer after the first interview and interview 3 people, and that's it. And I'm like, man, I interviewed 30 people, for this to find the right person. But the formula's worked, knock on wood, our retention's been pretty insane on these people because COVID, like the stock price of marketers went up and recruiters were everywhere in everybody's inbox for marketing. And I'll be transparent for our group of 8, just hired the ninth. Let's see. We had someone turn over that was recruited, and they're super talented. And I'm happy for them. Over a year ago, that was the last person. We did have one person I hired, but it was like 2 days. I'm like, this isn't quite a fit. And then before that, it was pre-COVID. So basically, everyone on the team is like minimum 3 years tenure, like 3 to 7, on a team that big. And it's because I think I'm only hiring people that I think can not only enjoy the culture. I'm not just pitching it as like, you're going to love it and we do all this fun stuff, but people that I think can contribute meaningfully to that culture and be a pillar of that culture.
Well, it's like if you really hate comic books, you're going to really hate coming into the office every day and seeing a giant comic book.
They're everywhere on the wall. Yeah, no, I think for some people, it's our mission and values, like that focus is like a little like rah-rah cheerleader or whatever, but it's the secret sauce. It's our foundation. Like, go-karting and that kind of stuff is great, but I think that's sprinkles on a culture cake. Like we're focusing on the cake, and that's clarity, competitiveness, and care. Those aren't our mission or values. I'm just saying those are more foundational there. So really it is like everything we do is based on what's the mission and vision for the company, and what are the values, and everybody's got to memorize forwards and backwards. When we do performance reviews, it's, hey, our value of excellence. We're relentless in our pursuit to be the best. Let's talk about Chandler, how you performed on that value. What's an area of growth, and what's an area where you really excelled in that? And that's that other piece, like finding people, and you can kind of tell in the interview, I pick at it, is if they're coachable. Because I don't want to work with anyone that's not coachable. I need to be coachable. To the co-founder that I report to, I want people that are coachable and humble and want to learn and get better.
Yeah. Well, even people below you, right, are still looking up at you going, hey, in this meeting, you were a little bit off. It felt like we wasted a lot of time. Like if you as a leader, at least in my experience, can't take that feedback from your team, all you're going to get is sunshine and rainbows up. And that's not always the world we're in. And then you're going to look around and go, all of a sudden the thing breaks and you're going, why is this broken this badly? And it's like, well, it's technically been that way, but we're all too afraid to actually tell you because you don't actually take negativity or any kind of feedback. And it's smart of you to be that way. I really love that. That's a good, for me, as I'm growing my own business over here, like I said, I'm gonna make this a little bit of a free consultation call for me. So I'm like, all right, as a marketing leader, building out my own marketing team now, I gotta do what Teddy does, and I gotta pay attention here. So I'm taking notes. I'm all in on it.
That's a good point, though.
But I'd love
willing to be coached up, letting people coach. Yeah, great point.
Yeah, I mean, but like people are going to emulate, your people are going to emulate the thing you do. You set the bar, right? I always tell the story of, I was in the Air Force back in the day, and we had this lieutenant, and he was bald, and he shaved his head clean every single morning. Like it was never 5 o'clock shadowed. I don't know if he shaved.
I meant to do it this morning because I was like, I'm gonna be on a podcast, and it was like lightning storms here. I was like, I'm not gonna get electrocuted. I don't know if that's a wives' tale, but I wasn't even in the shower, so I'm rocking more stubble than I usually want.
Well, this is why I'm telling you this story. I'm trying to like subtly jab at you and be like, hey man, I thought you were gonna be cleaned up for this episode today. What the heck?
Yeah.
But no, he just never had a hair out of place on his head. And what you know about the military is that there's a certain way you have to look and appear in the uniform, and their thought there is that if you maintain these little things, then you'll take care of the little things in your weapons and your systems and all the things so that we don't break down, right?
Yeah.
And it all starts with the way you look. And depending on the leader, sometimes there was a little bit of grace given, like, a little bit of leeway of like, oh, your hair's a little shaggier than normal, or you got a little bit of 5 o'clock shadow or whatever. But this guy was laser sharp. He never missed. He never missed anything. And he never missed a chance to not call somebody out, but to not in a negative way, just be like, Airman Lyles, your hair's a little long. You mind taking care of that for me? And he never did it publicly. He'd always get you one-on-one, or just like stop by your desk, and he never even did small talk on the front end. It was always like boom, boom, boom. And he did plenty of other investing in us too. And like he was, this wasn't the only interaction we had with him, because if it was all correction, obviously then screw that guy. But he was the one that I always remind myself of, where I'm like, when it's time to set the bar, like be like that guy. And you got to look at the guy in the mirror first and go, this is me and this is what I'm actually doing now. And like, am I actually living up to the standards I'm trying to set for the organization around me? Because they're just going to do what you do. It's like, you and I both have kids. And so the kid just does what you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
That's it. So,
The coaching philosophy, I think you're describing it of this person. It's, gosh, founder of Shake Shack, Danny Myers. He has this
yeah.
saying, CGP. Have you heard this? Continuous gracious pressure. We use that here. We've adapted it to constant gentle pressure, but it's our coaching philosophy is that there's always pressure. We're trying to win. We're trying to be the winning team. Like there's pressure. Let's not hide that fact. There's pressure to perform and excel in your role. That pressure is constant or continuous. It's not just in the year-end review. It's always, so you don't, get that whiplash, but it's gentle. It's gracious. We're people, we're humans. It's sympathetic, and you can't really have any two without the other. Because if you remove gentle, then you're just a jerk. If you remove continuous, then whiplash. If you remove pressure, then there's just no standards. So it's kind of those three together.
Setting the Table is a great book. I recommend it.
Yes,
Leader,
you
customer
already
service
know.
person. Go read
That's
it.
the book. It's so good.
Well, I used to have a barbecue restaurant, and I was beating my head up against the wall trying to figure that thing out. And so I was like looking for every book I could get, and that's an excellent book. Definitely recommend everybody reads it, especially if you lead people or have customer service. 100%.
The Salt Shakers. Go learn about it.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, so good. So good. So I'd love to get a little more in the weeds now. So you guys are marketing 35 plus locations there all across the U.S., all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast. You've got 9 people on the team there. From a marketing strategy standpoint, what's really, landing for you guys right now? Is it digital ads? Is it content marketing? Is it actual physical media in the store and papers and wherever else in the real world? Because we still do that apparently. Like, what is it? A mix of all of it? Like, what is really working for y'all on a strategy standpoint?
It's regional. It's one size. There's kind of the national, which I'll talk about, and one size fits one. Whereas, the rack card distribution that you see in hotels, like there's all these rack cards and brochures. Like, we put coupon codes and QR codes on those so we can see like how often they're being engaged with and used. And it's very different. Like in a New Orleans or a Gatlinburg, like. It works great. And then you got places in California where the ROI on that's pretty bad. So probably pull it next contract. But I think like more than anything, we're a hospitality company, and so that's something I drill into the team is we're word of mouth. Like there's nothing clever or smart we're doing marketing wise that's leading to our success and expansion. Like we provide epic interactive experiences for every single guest. That's part of our mission statement there. And so that's what we're all doing. So our differentiators really as a company are we have great real estate where people can park their car once and eat and have fun. We have great games. We build them differently. We have this adventure factory out in Smyrna where we have this team of architects and designers and carpenters that build all these games and scenic artists. It's awesome. That's cool. And the third is hospitality. It's just how we treat our guests. We're guest obsessed at every level, but that's kind of on the broad. On the more local SEO is very, very important. You mentioned it earlier. It's a really competitive market, and there's a lot of brand confusion where people, if they haven't played yet, they don't realize there's multiple companies or they're different. It's it's these escape room things, and so it's really important that we rank well when we go into a market. And then when you land on the website, it's really clear that we are different, that we lead with photography of our games. There was kind of this thing in the industry when I joined this corporate team in 2014 where it was just all about mystery and don't give away the puzzles. And it was all websites that were black and red that said, can you escape and this and that. And I said, hey, our games are awesome. We should be the only website, which is big, bright photography of our games. And so we did that because we felt like, well, this is something some of the other companies can't do because we have fantastic games. Let's lean on that. So that was kind of a brand move that has really helped us convert. Our website has a really high conversion rate. Our rankings are good. So those are the first two. I mean, again, it starts with the guest experience and that bleeds into website confirmations, our follow-up process and emails and how we're interacting on social media, all of that. But local SEO is really important. And then building out the brand in a category where there is a lot a lot of confusion. But again, one size fits one. We're running this kind of advertising, this market, and billboards here, and digital here, and
Hmm.
kind of runs the gamut.
Yeah, well, that's smart. The way people act on the East Coast may be different than the Midwest and West Coast, so that makes a lot of sense. From a brand building standpoint, though, are you guys doing anything specific there? Like, are you guys making YouTube videos, or is it a lot of social media there? Or is it like blogs? Like, what are you doing there? Or is it
Yeah,
just customer experience?
social as a part of it, email. We do a lot of like, yeah, we do some humor stuff on social media, but really for us, what people want from us is gaming and puzzles. So
Mhm.
we try to deliver that. Like, if you after you play your game and you do opt in through the waiver, if you do, you're going to get games and puzzles. You'll get an email that says there's a hidden message in this email. So just trying to keep people engaging with, okay, that's the one I like, that's the one I play. Other than that, like, our brand looks a little different. It's really accessible and friendly, bright colors. We kind of steered away from the dark mystery of it. We're family friendly,
Mhm.
all those things. So it looks different, and then all the classic stuff using our logo, name, whatever,
Mhm.
whatever. We're pretty strict on our brand standards as well because of all that brand confusion.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think there's a lesson to be learned there of like you've gotta back to the standards thing, you just have to hold the line about, it's never okay not to somebody to go rogue and not stay in line there. We work with a few small businesses from time to time, and a lot of them either don't have a branding kit or a branding document or any sort of brand guidelines, and then we try to help them establish them, and then 45 days later there's some sans serif thing on the website, and I'm just like, what have we done? This is never
Of
sans
course,
serif is not okay. It's just don't let's not go there. That would be
it comes from a
helpful
good
for all of us.
place.
It does, yeah.
Our local teams will make stuff, and like, it comes from a good place. It doesn't follow brand guidelines. We'll be like, hey, let our graphic designers send
Help
something
you out.
instead. But I
Yeah,
appreciate the initiative, for sure.
yeah.
And then there's things that I don't want to branded, like back to the hospitality thing. Like, our
Mm,
team will create like birthday cards for people in the game, and I'll sign it, or they'll make crafts for people, but it's just wild
that's cool.
stuff. And I've been asked by other teams, like, hey, should we like make really official looking stuff and send it to the stores? I said, no, I like that they're cutting out construction paper and they're making, like,
Yeah,
this is really because they're showing hospitality. This is like our mission and vision and values and action. So I don't want it to just feel like, here's your
yeah.
corporate birthday card.
Yeah, yeah. Or like a generic email that gives you a free sandwich that I always get.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's good. That reminds me of I was in Indiana traveling to meet a client, and we were at the Starbucks, as one does, and they had a cork board on the wall that had all the staff's pets, dogs, fish,
Oh,
cats,
wow.
and then a lot of the regulars, they had their pets up there as well, and they had like a featured pet of the month or week. I don't know how often they were changing it. We were only there a couple days, and I just remember thinking and seeing that and being like, man, that's a really unique way for a big, massive chain with a lot of locations in a lot of different areas to bring a local flair there. Because the thing that I learned in my barbecue days was that people really love supporting local companies. And I think what they love more than supporting local companies is something that is actually in the local community. So I think there's a way for
Yeah.
large national chains to get involved in the local community. And I think the way you guys are doing it, I mean, it's really smart. I never thought about having crafts time, but that's cool. Do you guys have like an award for best craft of the month or something? Because
We
that could
well, we really
ratchet it
do
up.
like reward these, like, we call them epic guest stories. We
Oh,
do
that's cool.
reward and recognize people. And we have a Slack called Epic Content of what people do. Like, we've had people run out, and we give budget for this kind of thing, this kind of
Hmm.
creativity. But like, someone will mention, we give people props from games. We give, like, if someone mentions they want dessert, like, sometimes we'll just go have dessert waiting on them at the end. Or like, I've heard stories of people buying birdhouses. I don't remember the story that led to the birdhouse when
Hmm.
they got out of the game for somebody. Like, we really try to, like, what would blow these people's minds that
Yeah.
has never happened to them at a company
Yeah.
before. And I mean, you can't do that for every single person, but what we can do is provide an epic experience
Mhm.
and provide great hospitality. And then there's some of those that are just over the top that we do.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. That's cool. So on the other side of things, what are some things in marketing that you guys have been trying that's not been working? You mentioned that some of the areas, they just don't register with the pamphlets and whatnot, but like maybe broader, like is it paid ads? Is it content? Is it social media works better for some locations or not? Like what's not working that I can avoid so I don't actually have to lose the
Well,
money?
it depends so much on the industry. Maybe this is
Yeah.
exactly what you need, but for us, like, Google CPC has just never
Hmm.
been successful. And with SEO being so important, that doesn't make sense.
Hmm. Yeah.
But we've run this test, we've run this play so many different ways.
Hmm.
and we haven't found it to be super successful. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Maybe it's good our competitors spend tons of money, their whole budget on this,
Yeah.
but yeah, we haven't found that to be successful. And then, yeah, like you said, it's regional. With
Like
the
that's super interesting. Google doesn't work. That would, I feel like somebody searching escape room type games would be high intent. How is that not?
They
That's
are. I
any
mean, it's
thought?
but
Like
it's
why?
for the map pack and the organic listing. Like the
Yeah,
paid clicks, the paid clicks are not converting the same
that's
way. They just
wild.
don't.
Yeah, interesting.
And I'd always had been against for us like bidding on our own branded
Mm,
terms, but
mm,
even on more generic stuff, escape room near me, whatever, hasn't been
interesting.
super successful. Yeah.
The branding terms thing is interesting. I know a lot of people have split decisions on that. I've met people that are like, you need to protect that land at all cost, and then some people are like, if your brand's strong enough, it just doesn't matter. So like, or which
Yeah.
side of that argument are you on? Do you think?
Yeah, I think surprising because there is brand confusion is no,
Mm,
I wouldn't do it. We don't do it. We haven't had success with it, and it's just like we think about return on investment kind of differently from like an e-commerce, a lot
mm,
of e-commerce companies because you have is it returning? Okay, well, a
mhm,
branded term returns. It doesn't mean it's incremental, which is something you would not have had anyway. So you have what's the return? Is it incremental? These are the questions we ask on spend.
mhm,
So would we not have had it anyway? I think we would on those. Or testing says, does it cannibalize other slots that we're going to fill up anyway? Like if this channel fills up Saturday, like Saturday's not a problem. Like it's
mhm,
full. So we're cannibalizing full price games that we didn't need to invest in. And then four,
mhm,
how scalable is that channel? And so we look at all. I think a lot of people stop with like, I'm in my Google account and it says 20x, which it would for our branded term. Like okay, I don't think it's incremental.
yeah, it'd have
And
been
then
infinity if you just didn't do it.
yeah, exactly. And then we have other things where like this is hyper seasonality. You know, it might be a multi
Mm,
attraction pass that you could join
mhm,
that brings you new people. It's incremental. We would not have had these people any other way. They wouldn't have heard of us. They bought
mhm,
this multi attraction pass, but you know, we're sharing commission with whoever runs the pass.
mhm,
Um, and they're mainly coming on Saturdays. Okay, well, I'm replacing a full price game with someone that I'm
mhm,
paying commission for.
mhm.
Um, and then, so we kind of look at it a few ways to decide,
Yeah,
is it a good use of our money?
right. Are you guys corporately owned all stores, or is it franchised?
Yeah, we own them all.
Corporate. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Is there more like from a marketer's perspective? I've always wondered about that. Like, is it better to have complete ownership of all the stores because it's just more communication that can happen and there's less? I feel like a lot of franchise models it ends up being very combative between corporate office and the person that actually owns the business. But
I've seen some of that. I
yeah,
haven't had personal experience. I've seen it with friends. I
hmm,
think this would be preferred
yeah,
because our general managers at our stores, they all came up as game guides. Every
hmm,
single one of them, they came up in our system. They have the culture. They know how to take care of guests.
it's cool.
And then they're learning the ownership of running that business. But we're giving them marketing 101 that isn't what a franchise owner like a franchise owner might have to hire an agency or run their own ads or do X, Y,
Hmm,
and Z. We're more focusing on like, okay, if a walk-in comes in previewing our games and how to blow their mind and create word of mouth, like that's
hmm,
the kind of marketing we talk, or community intel, like what are your neighbors saying about their volume? How's the neighborhood doing right now? So we give them little
hmm.
like marketing multivitamins on how to partner with us, but
Yeah,
we're
I
not
like that.
stepping on each other's toes really at all.
You said word of mouth there, and that's something I've become obsessed with, especially as a guy that runs an agency, because I end up talking to a lot of people that, in my opinion, aren't ready to hire an agency yet. I understand and am empathetic to their pain point, which is like, Chandler, I'm just trying to get some more revenue in the door. And especially because I came from that world. My first business was a brick and mortar store. So much like you guys, like I feel that pain. And if you've only got one location, maybe you need to run ads, maybe not. But like word of mouth was the thing that catapulted us and gave us enough bandwidth to go run ads and do all the other things that we did. Do you have any thoughts around the best way to trigger word of mouth amongst your customers?
I like that word. Have you read Talk Triggers?
Yep.
Jay Baer, great
Yep.
book.
Yep.
You know, I think what's interesting for us, I actually talked to Jay about like, I was like talking to him about something else. He's a writer I like. And I was like, dude, what's our talk trigger? What's our talk trigger? Um, and I won't give his exact his exact answer because he had a lot of wisdom. But one thing he did say is the category itself is a talk trigger. You're locked in a room and have to solve your way out. So you
Mm,
just need to be the best hookiest, best converting one because it has a talk trigger built into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so our job is to make the brand stick and the name recall, and it's the one that's over there. So having this thing that's so talkable, like you're locked in a room and you got to escape, and providing this epic hospitality. So you're filling people, they're having an amazing time. They feel like they got more than their money's worth. Um, then that kind of creates this like really targeted specific word of mouth, because in the book he talks
Yeah.
about generic word of mouth, it was good, and specific, it was good because of X, Y, and Z. And so
Yeah.
they can say, hey, I was locked in a room with puzzles, and people are like, oh, I get that. And it's like, at this place, they mention our location and the fact that we blew their minds with our customer service.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. Yeah, I think so many times people are looking for marketing to solve problems that exist way before marketing becomes part of the puzzle,
Yes,
so to speak. It's like your product or service has some holes in it that are making people not connect with it at a high enough level to where they want to go use their own social capital to share your message with their friends and family and coworkers and stuff. So a lot of the times it's just looking upstream there and going, hey, what can I do better that makes people want to share the message? And once you do, then marketing is really just pouring gasoline on the fire, like
that's it.
constantly, and it just takes off. Otherwise, you're just pouring it down a hole and it's disappearing forever, and nobody's coming
That's exactly it.
back.
Yeah.
So, as a marketer and a marketing leader and doing this for a long time now, what is I always love trends and I always love like what's next and the new creative stuff. So I've got two sides of this question, and the first side is like what trend or tactic right now is just overhyped? Like you've heard way too much about it. It's in the news. It's in all the things. Like your grandma's bringing it up to you, and you're like, Grandma, you've never marketed a day in your life. Why are you talking about this? Like, what is the trend that you're like, I wish people would just chill out for a little while and see what happens before they go all in on it?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. I could be wrong. I think about us, and like I think the like farming engagement to go viral on TikTok like is not the end all be all.
Yeah,
Like,
buying likes has never been good.
oh,
Buying
that too.
anything's
Yeah,
never been good. Yeah.
buying stuff. Like, yeah, no, that's not it. And by farming engagement, I just mean like hopping on a trend, doing something funny.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't build your brand at all. If it's like, hey, I got 3 million
Yes.
views, like we have posts that get millions of views, and like there's nothing
Mm.
wrong with that. It's great. I'm glad to have them, but like, and maybe it market at best it markets the category. Someone thought about an escape game today.
Mm.
And then if
Yes.
we go to Google, if our SEO is good, they'll find us. But there's very little that we're going to do that's going to go absolutely viral,
Mm.
that's going to be connect people to the escape game,
Mm.
those
Yeah.
names. And then, I think the other is like AI, too soon to say. We're using some tools that I like. We use Full
Yeah.
Story and Lavender and playing with Seventh Sense,
Hmm.
some different stuff. But Chat GPT for writing is overhyped in my mind. I'm sure it's coming to be good enough, but I'll sit there
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't give Chat GPT constant gentle pressure. Sometimes it's not gentle. I'm like, this is trash. Try it again.
So when the AI takes over one day, you're the first to go. You're on the initial hit list for AI overlords. I got you. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, they're going to be like, who hasn't been
Who didn't
kind?
say thank you when I wrote this 2,000
Yeah,
word
I don't
blog for
give
them?
it the feedback sometimes I give the team. I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, that is the worst copy I've ever read.
No CPG for them. No or CGP. No
Yeah,
constant gentle pressure.
exactly.
Right? Yeah. No, you're just all
Exactly.
in.
It took the
You're like
gentle
this
right out. It's just
right out. I love
constant
it. That's
pressure.
great. So on the other side of that, then what's something that's not getting enough attention, or maybe it's an older tactic that people have just forgotten about? Email is the one I always bring up because
Oh, yeah.
everybody's so quick to forget email marketing, and I'm like, do you even email your list once a week? Because how do you know? It blows my mind.
Email's out, man. I agree. Email is definitely where it's at. It's huge for us. Really, really big. And giving, I mean, I'm so tired of hearing people say you got to give real value. But for us, it kind of goes back to like sending them puzzles and games and what
Yeah.
they want to hear from us to stay top of mind. And then I'd say like a brand, I think is like, yeah, it's a big term. People talk about brand
Mm.
every day, all day. But
Yeah.
I don't know if there's really that much tenacity behind it for a
Mm.
lot of companies for their brand. And I don't just mean visual identity and logo, like that stuff's important. But I think brand, because like more and more like Google's algorithm likes and cares about brand, and
Mm.
who the company is, and making that a ranking factor more than backlinks.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see. They don't really share this information, but I would love to see them come out with a public website authority sort of ranking or
Oh
something.
yeah.
There's some stuff that we've seen different SEO tools use to sort of assume what they would say the authority of this website is, which is sort of in line a little bit with what you're talking about. But there's a lot about branding that's just intangible in a weird way. Like, what's the actual value of Coca-Cola? Like they call it goodwill on a balance sheet, but how do you actually quantify what that polar bear is worth every Christmas? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
So
Seth Godin said that a brand, right? I saw this talk. He said a brand is how much more you can charge than a competitor,
yeah,
so that they can
yeah,
have that sense of safety. They're getting the real one.
yeah,
Otherwise, what's the point? And he said,
yeah,
like, sort by price ruined hotel brands because all the 3 stars are the same because
yeah.
every hotel room looks the same in that range at 3 a.m. in the morning. You open your eyes, it's pitch black. It's just.
That's true, but there's what was it? Talk Triggers, I think, was the one where you talked about the one hotel would bring you the popsicle at the pool when you rang the
Oh
banana
yeah,
phone or
that's
whatever
the
it was. I love
hotline.
that. Yeah,
That's
and then
super cool. That's a
a
great
white
idea.
glove person. I think there's ways to get really creative. So what we talk about when we talk about branding with clients, what we tell them is like a brand is simply a story that a person tells about your company, positive or negative. And that's the
Yeah.
brand of the company. You can say all the buzzwords and mission, you can do all that you want. But at the end of the day, what does one person say about your brand, positive or negative? And then you step back and go, how many people know about our brand to even tell a story, positive or negative? And then how many of those people percentage wise are telling positive versus negative? And that's pretty much how you get a brand. And so for me, I'm a simple guy. I like to break it down. I'm like you're kind of already hitting on this, I think, in this interview. It's like, how do you get one person in the room to have a unique experience that's different than every other escape game they've tried and only come to the escape game from now on? And that is that unique story. And it's a combination of environment and puzzle and customer service and, maybe even some other secret stuff that you're just not going to share. And I don't blame you because it's secret sauce and what you guys do. But that is what a brand is. And then people can come out and they go, oh, like now you got 6 million people over the last, however long that you guys have served. And now they're all, I'm sure, 90+% are telling positive stories. That's a great brand. And now you've created a competition delta between you and anybody else. Like if I wanted to go start an escape game tomorrow, good luck competing. Like I'm going to have to go to markets you guys aren't even close to because, it's just you guys already have so much momentum in the other markets. And so, from here, you guys are going to explode, I'm sure. It's not even going to be close.
Hey, start one. We like good competitors. Introduce the category and put the category in a good light. What is
Uh,
terrible is someone saying,
uh,
"Oh yeah, I played one of those things and I don't like that."
oh, they hurt the whole
They're
category.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
if a competitor brings someone into the category that has a good time, they're eventually going to play us, and that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, they'll try it out. That's how we thought about it with the barbecue thing. We were like, we want there to be 100 we want Lexington to be the barbecue capital of the world.
Yeah,
Kansas City has millions of barbecue restaurants, I'm sure, and so
yeah,
it's like, because everybody in their backyard barbecues, so it's like it's
that's
part of
right.
the culture.
Every
So
single
yeah,
person. Yeah.
yeah, I love that mentality. So last question for you here. It's always my favorite question because it takes money off the table. So if I could like 10x your marketing budget tomorrow, like what do you think the first big thing you would do with that? Maybe not the whole thing. We don't have to go that detailed, but like in general, like what do you want to be doing today that you don't quite have the budget for just yet, but you're like really excited to try at some point?
This one is tough. I mean, this is probably a cop out. I would say I wouldn't, just because like we're
Mm-hmm.
retail, we're earnings based.
Mm-hmm.
There's revenue and there's earnings, and so money we're spending is coming. If it's not returning for
Mm-hmm.
sure, is coming out of the
It's a bad
the
day.
earnings statement. So, but okay, I'll push one step further and say I would go to some of the earlier stores and do really wild signage packages
Mm.
on the building. Go bigger, badder on the signage.
So the sign for the actual store itself.
Yeah, the
Oh,
exterior of the sign.
interesting.
That's what I do.
What's
It's
your what are your thoughts there with that?
just visibility,
Yeah.
and just making a statement about the brand too.
Hmm. Interesting.
Because some of the early ones just say the escape game is not even the full logo markup. I'm like, no, I
Hmm.
want our mascot huge and waving, our glowing spaceman, and the
Yeah.
escape game, and our feverish pink color that really pops. That's our brand color. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hey, I love that. Well, when you get one up, send me a picture. I want to see it.
yeah,
That sounds
definitely.
awesome. That sounds cool. Well, Teddy, man, thanks so much for joining me today. Where can we send people to connect with you and learn more
Yeah, yeah.
and
Feel
the
free
escape
to
game?
hit me up on LinkedIn. Name is Teddy Cheek, or email me, teddy@theescapegame.com. Or I write about marketing leadership sometimes at teddycheek.com. So any of those, would love to hear from you.
I love it. Hey, and if this wasn't our first time meeting, I need to warn you now. I would circle this all the way back to the start of the interview and be like, you got to give me an off the head jingle for the Escape game, since that was your dream marketing agency to begin with. I'm not going to do it to you, but just know the next time we talk, whether it's a one-on-one coffee shop or another podcast, like that question's coming.
Ready.
So you should start writing now.
I'll
would
be
be
ready.
my
This was
advice.
fun. Chandler, thank you. This was
Oh
fun.
no, Teddy, this was great, and we appreciate all you guys out there watching. We will see you next week. Peace.